Good evening. I'd like to call to order the January 9th, 2024 regular board meeting. I'd also like to announce that the meetings of the Mechanicsburg Area School District Board of Directors are being recorded and live streamed for the purpose of transparency and increased public access. The live stream, along with the recordings from previously held meetings, can be found on the school board's YouTube channel. At this time, if all would like to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we'll have a brief moment of silent meditation. To roll call, Mr. Longwell.
Mr. Bradley.
Here.
Mr. Frangel.
Here.
Mrs. Huff.
Here.
Mr. Kickline.
Here.
Dr. Lebo.
Here.
Ms. Morgan's present via Zoom. Dr.
Here.
Rhodes.
Present.
Mr. Rupp.
Here.
And Mr. Sanker.
Here.
Right, item 1.06, endorsement of agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda, Mr. Longwell?
There were no changes or additions, and the agenda will otherwise stand as written.
And item 1.07, reading of minutes of the regular board meeting and reorganization meeting held on December 12th, 2023. Do any board members have any additions or additional corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, Mr. Longwell, they'll be filed as printed. Move on to item 2, hearing of visitors of items on the meeting agenda. There will be 2 opportunities for public comment this evening. As a reminder, public comment is limited to residents of the school district. At this time, we have reached the first opportunity for public comment. This opportunity is reserved for comments related to items that are listed on the evening's agenda for a vote. A second opportunity for public comment will occur at the end of the meeting. The second opportunity for public comment is reserved for comments on issues not listed on the agenda and not being voted upon. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes per individual and requires community members to observe a reasonable decorum. If you'd like to address the board, please come up to the podium and share your district name and address. This is for items that are on the agenda tonight for a vote. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 3, reports and presentations. Item 3.01, Superintendent of Schools report, Dr. Leidy.
Yes, good evening. Happy to share several items with the board tonight, and we will start with me reintroducing and in some ways introducing to our new board members Justin Brune. Justin Brune is the Executive Director at the Career and Technology Center, of which our high school students have the opportunity to attend and are doing so in larger and larger numbers recently in Mechanicsburg, to the point that Mr. Brune decided he's going to have to add on to the building out there, I believe. We're familiar with those construction issues in Mechanicsburg. Mr. Brune, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Leidy. Yeah, it's good to be here tonight. Good to bring some fantastic students who are going to tell you a little bit about their experiences at Cumberland Perry. Before I turn things over to them, I just want to say, as always, appreciate the support from the Mechanicsburg School District, from Dr. Leidy and his team, all the way down through the counselors, just doing a really super job of informing students about their options, about their opportunities, about career pathways, and trying to find students the right fit at our school. As Dr. Leidy said, seen a lot of enrollment growth certainly over the last five years, and it's really exciting. There's a lot of opportunities at Cumberland Perry, and as you're going to hear, these students have really use that to the best of their advantage. Do have a couple of handouts here. First one is some general information about Cumberland Perry, some notes and numbers. I'll pass those around if you can take one. The second handout is more specific to Mechanicsburg School District. So I'll pass those out. Before I turn things over to these fine young ladies, again, just want to say thank you. Mr. Sanker is our Joint Operating Committee chairperson, very invested, spent a lot of time and a lot of effort, with us, and that is very much appreciated. Very exciting time at Cumberland Perry as we are embarking on our facility improvement and expansion project, and I'd be happy to give you details. I think the majority has been shared, but for new members or for a refresher, I'll be happy to go over that. But without further ado, first I'm going to turn things over to these students, and I think Maria is going to go first. So my pleasure to introduce Maria Clark from our carpentry program.
Hello, like you said, my name is Maria Clark. I am a carpentry student at Cumberland Perry. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was why I joined the carpentry program. And since I was young, I always liked working with my hands. I did tech ed programs like wood shop, things like that. And so I figured carpentry would be the next step, something to take it a little bit further. Through the 3 years, I've learned many skills. It started with our level 1. We learned basic things, tools, how to use a saw, how to cut squares so that you don't have a wonky building. And then the second and third year programs have changed a little bit. We used to start with 1 year, you'd learn one thing, and then the next you'd learn another. But as one teacher had to teach both years, he ended up changing the curriculum so that you'd learn about rough carpentry 1 year and then finish carpentry another year. And you might start with one and then learn the other, or flip-flop. During my time at Tech, I've been enrolled in Skills USA, or a member of Skills USA, which is an organization to help students at career and technology centers to learn about leadership and develop their skills. They have competitions, whether about the program or leadership. And I am a state officer. I am the vice president for Pennsylvania, which gave me the amazing opportunity to go to Atlanta, Georgia for the Nationals. I was a delegate, and there was some amazing people that I got to meet from all over the country and territories. And we actually did pin trading, so I have pins from many different states if you want to see a map of that. During my time, I also got my OSHA 10 certification, and at the end of this year, I plan on completing my NOCTI certification. And I am a part of the co-op program. I work at Lobar Associates. I actually have the jacket on today. It's been an amazing opportunity to learn more skills and learn more about the trade. When you're in the tech program, there's only so much you can learn. While it is an amazing opportunity and it gives you a great jumping off point, there's so much more to learn. Especially, I learned carpentry, but in the world of general contracting, that can be anything from pouring concrete to laying brick when you're starting with just working with wood. And I also am a part of my school's track and field team. I do shot put and discus, and I actually was able to compete at states the last 2 years. And I plan to continue my education through college. I'm not sure where, but I want to study chem, which seems very different from carpentry. But I hope to be able to apply that in some way, whether it's making materials for carpentry or doing half and half. I'm still trying to figure it out, but I really like working with my hands, but I also really enjoy the lab work as well. Are there any questions I can answer? Oh, yep.
Can you mentor my children? And how much per hour for your service?
I'm not sure.
No, you did amazing. You did amazing.
How easy was it to take the necessary courses at the home school to potentially go into college? I mean, do you feel with the scheduling as it is now, you're able to take what you needed to go to further your education without having to go take the additional courses somewhere?
Yeah, definitely. This last year I had to fit in some language classes, and it's been kind of a rough transition. We went from the full year to the block scheduling,
Right.
But because of that, I was also able to fit in 2 years of language this year, which made it a lot easier. I also am taking extra classes. I took an extra science class this year. I wasn't able to do the math as well that I wanted to, but it's been relatively easy.
Good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always been difficult with, both tech students is
Yeah.
that wanted to continue their education afterwards, is sometimes getting those necessary courses.
Yeah, I've still been able to get, I feel,
I
good
don't want to put you
education
on the
at
spot,
Prepare.
but
Oh, no,
it's
you're
good to hear that it's working well.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Paloma Lemon, and I'm in the Advertising Art and Design class at Votech. This is my third year, and it may seem very different from carpentry. You'll probably think of Votech, and you're like, oh, blue collar, probably something like diesel, working on cars. But I promise that our school is much more diverse than you would probably think, which is why I think it was a very good pick for me and Maria to both show up. So it's two sides of the same school. I'm not really sure what I would like to do in the future, but I specifically chose advertising art design because of my passion for creating art. And so I would like to spend the rest of my life creating art, and that's just what I do every day. I go to school, I make art, I go home, and I'll continue to make art or consume art. I have applied to Messiah University, and that's where I plan to finish my art education. And thanks to the help of my teachers and friends at Votech, I'm currently applying for scholarships, and I've been accepted at Messiah University. In the first year at Votech, we learn how to do many of the basic things like Photoshop and illustration. We do smaller projects like advertisements and logo designs. In the second year, we learn how to use InDesign. We do a lot more advanced projects that will probably take a lot more time, like book covers, packaging, product design. This sounds like small projects, but I promise you that they take way more time and effort than just saying it. And in level 3, we get a lot more creative freedom, but also learn how to do photography. Right now, we're working on passion projects, and mine is specifically comics. So in the beginning of the year, I created character designs, and I created the entire world building, and then I created the comic this past month. And I will be working on the concept designs because I'm currently busy working on a Skills USA competition, which I will be going to January 15th, which is a t-shirt design. So last year, I was accepted into the National Technical Vocational Honor Society, and I was also given the opportunity earlier this year to speak at the Rotary Club. And it was basically just this speech talking about Votech again, but to a different group of people. Outside of Votech, I work at Messiah University, and I just finished up my 5th year in the Mechanicsburg Marching Band, where I played the flute. Votech has helped me a lot to grow academically, but also grow my passion for art. Without Votech, I honestly probably would have given up on art many years ago, but learning about it every single day helps to keep your interests and also improve it. So whenever you improve at your skill, it makes you want to do it more. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them now.
Great. It's great to hear all the things that you talked about. My son is actually in that field. Graduated from Mechanicsburg, went to Kutztown University, and is doing exactly what you talked about. And what you talked about at doing in the Votech was part of his college curriculum, almost identical. Packaging and comic book stuff and covers and everything. So I can really appreciate the level of education that you were taking and the direction that you're going in, and can affirm that that's the right direction. That was really what helped him to launch into the job that he's doing right now and following that same path. So keep with that. He was the same thing. He did art all day and went home and did art all night. So just keep with that passion and you'll do great. It sounds like you got a great experience.
It really helps that my first teacher, he was also a college teacher, so like he did those college courses. So he often used his college courses, kind of just dumped it down for our class and just gave it to us.
Very good.
As a Messiah alum that took a minor in art, it's a great program, so great to see it in that direction.
Thank you for listening.
Yes, I just want to thank both of you. I just want to thank both of you again for excellent presentations. It really shows, it's a testament to the education you get both at your home school and at the Votech. To be able to stand up and present yourself to a bunch of strangers so well, it's just very impressive. It really is.
Mr. Rep, I was going to say something similar to that we hear from
students at most of the JOC meetings, and it's constantly surprising in a great way that you don't know what to expect from what they're going to present on, what their program is, and just amazed at the level of public speaking. And not only that, but being able to hearing about the extracurriculars that you both are able to participate into, the flexibility with the way the block scheduling is working now, and I think how we've been able to kind of plug the two together. I think I'm glad to hear the real life benefits that have come from some of the stuff we only see this side of, but we hear all that. Great job.
Absolutely.
Thank you again for having us. We're really proud of our students and what they do and the places that they've gone. We truly think that there's something for a lot of students, whether they're going straight to employment or they're going to continue their education. Cumberland Perry programs give them a jump. Every one of our programs has at least an articulation agreement with a post-secondary school to give them advanced standing. A lot of our programs offer college in the high school, so the students actually leave high school with those college credits. And then the industry credentials that our students earn are the same ones that are used out in the industry. So employers see those and they realize that this person has a leg up. So again, I would be happy to answer questions about any of the programs or the school as a whole. But again, thanks for the time tonight, and we do appreciate the support.
Any questions for Justin? Again, thank you for all you do.
Mr. Ruff, you mentioned the building project. I think we have a few new board members, and I thought, we don't talk about it all the time here. And you could not take too much time to kind of explain it. It'd be helpful to kind of get us all on the same page. I know you just put you on the spot with it. So.
No, absolutely. I'm really excited about this facility project. Ultimately, it's going to be a number of improvements to some programs, expansion of some programs, and then creation of new programs. So it's going to expand our welding program, expand our automotive collision, expand our advanced manufacturing program, expand our logistics and warehouse management program. It's going to create a pre-engineering program, a building and property maintenance program, a fire and rescue program, and a service occupations program. It's going to create classroom space for our culinary program, and we'll have a more secure entryway, as well as some better access to the building. Right now, it's one road in and one road out, and there's going to have a secondary in and out road. So, from super high level, that's really what we're accomplishing. End result in terms of student numbers is we'll be able to accommodate just about 275 additional students.
And that's on the heels of the healthcare that you've already increased in size. So it's really a great program. I just want to publicly acknowledge Mr. Broom. We've had the opportunity to work together now for several years, and to see live and in person two students come up and show that this isn't a dichotomy that kids have to have anymore about I'm going to a trade or I'm going to college, and that fact that you can blend and have multiple opportunities for where you want to go is a direct reflection of Justin's leadership in that building. And just he said something very quickly, but I want to point it out. Every program at the Career and Technology Center has an articulation agreement with a college and a university. I just think that's incredible. And not that every kid has to go down that path, but it's an option if the students want to choose that. So thank you for your continued leadership on that and everything else happening around. Second item, I just wanted to update the board that a little over a month ago, we had the opportunity to recognize two of our outstanding staff at Shippensburg University. This is an annual event that we get to attend, and a really nice opportunity for the teachers to actually eat a full lunch from beginning to end, including dessert. And so this year's recipients from mechanics were Matt Brown, 5th grade teacher at Elmwood Academy, and Kyle Edwards is a math teacher at our high school. Mr. Rupp has the opportunity to come to that and has on many occasions.
Yes, it's always very enjoyable to see our staff get recognized there. It really is. And it's also amazing on how many people Dr. Leidy knows in the educational world. He's usually the star person
I
there.
don't know about that.
But no, it's really nice. It gives the teachers the afternoon off and some recognition for the extra work and the hard work that they do. We really always seem to do well there.
Yeah, it's a good program. Each year, we take the opportunity just to thank the board for the work that they do. And each year, the Pennsylvania School Boards Association puts out a school director recognition proclamation. And January is the month for recognizing our school board members. And it would be easy just to run through this very quickly and say, hey, thanks for the work that you do. But I think it's really important that we take the time to recognize a few things. And as long as I've had the opportunity to do this, it is a point of pride for many reasons. The first one is that Pennsylvania was the first government in the history of our world, think about this, in the history of the world, to say that every child should have a free and appropriate public education. And that happened in 1834. Prior to that, it wasn't everybody, right? And not everybody got an education. And so, of course, that has expanded well beyond Pennsylvania at this point, but 1834. And with that, this local school boards have the responsibility of public education within that locality. In Pennsylvania, there happens to be 500 school districts. If you look at a neighboring state like Maryland, they don't have school districts like we do. They have county systems and far fewer county systems. I like the way Pennsylvania does it. I'm partial, but I do like the way we do it around here. To have folks like you being able to contribute to a direct conversation about what education looks like for children like that, that you just saw present to us this evening. Although school board members are elected officials, they are volunteers. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize. I don't know what they think you get paid sometimes, but I will, every chance I get, remind them that you volunteer your time and service to our community and to our students. And so on behalf of the Pennsylvania School Boards Association, on behalf of the staff in this school district, most importantly, on behalf of the children in this community, thank you for your service to our school board, and thank you for the time and effort that you put into the operation of this district. I, for one, can tell you that I'm honored to sit at this table with all of you. So thank you for that. Appreciate it. I think it deserves a round of applause. They won't clap for themselves. All right, very good. Next thing that I'd like to go over is I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Bitts. This evening on the agenda is the approval of the high school course registration guide. And as part of that, we have a few things that are happening a little bit out of order compared to our traditional way of presenting to the board. And I'm asking for you to recognize that, and also to explain to you that in order for us to offer the courses to our high school students for next year, we're a little bit out of order with it, but I think you're going to feel comfortable once you hear from Mr. Bitts and our department coordinator, Mrs. Giblin.
Thanks. So 2 changes that are in that summary document that are more traditional changes. One that's a new course that the board had already approved, and one that is a course that had been approved long ago and had been on the books for a while and had been taken out of circulation and we're bringing back, and that's the AP Computer Science. But the set of courses that we want to just provide a little bit more description for are the changes to the art courses. And just wanted to provide a little bit more context for you of what exactly you'll be approving tonight versus what you'll be hearing about more in future meetings, and then be able to give Mrs. Giblin the opportunity, if she's still beaming from what Paloma shared earlier, but for her to be able to share a little bit about the art changes more from a conceptual standpoint. So in terms of the changes, we've had each of our departments working through the curriculum and assessment process of being able to bring all of their core curriculum up to date and really modernize it, especially coming out of COVID, take some of the lessons we learned from that period of time and be able to make updates to their program. And they are very close to being finished with some really exciting updates K through 12. And that's going to involve some reconfiguring of the high school courses, which had previously been Art 1, 2, 3, and 4 as more survey-style courses, and they'll be making a switch in that. So tonight, you're going to be, through approval of the course registration book, you're going to be asked to approve or recognize that we're making that switch from a conceptual level from the original Art 1, 2, 3, and moving towards the courses that are listed there. And then again, you'll have an opportunity to review the more detailed program and curriculum in a future meeting, at which point ICC, our Instructional Coordinating Council, will have already seen it, provided their feedback, and then we'll seek their approval for the actual program itself. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Giblin to come up and just share a little bit more about the heart behind the switch.
Am I supposed to stand at the podium?
Up to you, wherever you're comfortable.
In front, in the middle here.
I'm going to sit only because I have plantar fasciitis in my foot. I can't really my neck, so. Thank you. It's so good to see familiar faces and some new faces. I've been our department coordinator for 20 years now, and a teacher in the district for 24, with 1 year previous to Mechanicsburg. We are really excited about this change. It's been a while in the making. I think we just needed to wait for some things to fall into place. The semester scheduling lends itself a little bit better to these changes. And in addition to myself, we have 2 other teachers at the high school, art teachers who are absolutely phenomenal. And we're excited as we worked through these changes for the possibilities that it's going to give to our students in addition to what we've already offered. So I just want to assure you that there is no new content, so to speak, that we're offering, but it's more a reorganization of the content and how that content is going to be delivered. So since I've been a teacher at the high school, we have followed the Art 1, 2, 3, 4 model, and that served us well for the many years that we offered it. But looking at the changes that are happening outside of high school and what's happening in the world, we needed, to make some changes to better suit what our students need. So what we looked at was what we currently offer and how we could fit that into a model that would allow the students more opportunities to take as many art courses as possible with the type of schedule that one semester scheduling offers. So we just sat down, when we plan as a department, we plan as an art department, K to 12. It's not just one group of teachers and another. We literally plan from K to 12 to make sure that we are building off of what's being offered up through the grade levels. So our teachers at the elementary and middle school level were part of this process, just to understand where we were going and to understand how what they do will feed into what we do eventually. So one of the biggest changes I think that I should highlight is currently, if the students are taking Art 1, 2, 3, or 4, although we address sculpture in those classes, we don't fully addressed. There's not a full sculptural experience. We do offer clay, but any student can take clay even if they haven't had any other art class, which is sometimes limiting because they're not coming in with all the vocabulary and all the skill sets and all the understandings that the art students do when they come into a clay class. So what we really looked at was that intro to art piece, and it does very closely mirror Art 1, but it also pulls in some of the clay 1, but also the ideas of sculpture in general. And so with the introduction to art class, any student who wants to take any of the other classes would need that prerequisite course. And that way they're all equipped with the same skill sets and vocabulary and knowledge levels that they could then make a very informed decision of, I really like working in the two-dimensional realm, or I really want to explore the three-dimensional realm, or I want to do both, because we will have students who will take every art class that is offered to them. So, so the introduction to art class pulls in the Art 1 information and the Clay 1 information and marries that together, but then also not just limiting it to Clay 1. Their first sculpture experience will be with clay and intro to art, but then they can expand and go on to take the Sculpture 1 class and the Sculpture 2 class. And then the Drawing 1 and Drawing and Painting 1 and Drawing and Painting 2 classes very closely mirror what we cover in 2, 3, and 4, but some of that information we're compacting, some of that information we're expanding upon, so that it really is not, again, introducing new information, but just repackaging it and how we're offering it to the students. There's some exciting opportunities within this. Part of that is our move from one end of the building to the other end of the building, and we will be located right with the tech ed people. So we're hoping that, well, we have to share some space with them, the finishing lab and things like that, and we all get along very well together, but we're hoping that because we're now closer to the tech ed department, that maybe we can branch out into the welding and the building part, but that will happen not right away. Obviously, we have to figure out how we all fit into that space and how things will work, but there's a lot of exciting opportunities with the changes to our course offerings. Let me check my notes and make sure I, yes, covered everything I'm supposed to. Okay, questions?
I have a question. You talk about how this fits with, or how kind of the K-12 group all looks at this, and with this being a ninth grade class in theory, like, should it really be intro to art? Your discussion about clay, like, that's not the first time they've seen clay. Like, there's kilns in all of the elementary buildings. Like, I wonder, is it both like rehashing, or is there more of a, is there an opportunity here to like be even I don't know, does intro to art happen in ninth grade is my question, I guess.
That's a fair question. I think I wouldn't get hung up in the titling of the course, because they've had art from kindergarten through 7th is a fair statement. 8th grade they get to pick where what fine and applied arts they will want to take in 8th grade. So it's an introduction to art at the high school level, preparing them with the necessary skills, vocabularies, understandings in order to take the next set of classes. So it's an introduction to art, but it's building off of what they've learned K through, in most cases, 8th grade, but then expanding upon that. K to 8, they're working with concepts and ideas that are appropriate for their skill sets, their fine motor skills, different ideas, things like that. When you get to the high school level, we're really looking at gearing them to prepare them for college experience or after high school work experience. And so the work is a little more intense. We're working with really getting them to formulate ideas of their own, understanding that art is a communication, is a means of communication communication and how they use that means of communication to articulate ideas and thoughts and experiences. But also, and part of this too is would be the building of a portfolio, because if they're going to art school, they're going to be asked to show their portfolio. So at the 9th grade level, taking that intro art class is really where they start to create those portfolio pieces to build that portfolio. And a lot of times when they go to college, if they're majoring in the arts or going to another program outside of high school, they're gonna end up in another intro to class, even though they've had art, K through 12 in some instances. Now they're at the college level, and it's like an intro to art at the college level and building on everything that they've learned previous to that. So that's a good question, thank you.
I did not take art in high school, but I took it in college, and coming from the point of breaking down in tears after my first critique in college, I really appreciated seeing that skill set in the list and how critically important that is in our society today, to be able to communicate subjective ideas, and that goes beyond art as well. But one of my questions was, are you resourced for sculpture and for cutting metal and all that? So you kind of already answered that. One question that I think came to mind was, how are you transitioning students that are already in the survey style classes to the new model?
So part of my job as the department coordinator was to develop a map to kind of map students through it. So any student who is coming into the high school next year as a freshman, or who has not taken an art class yet and wants to start taking art classes at the high school level, would start at the introduction level. And then from there, I think you have a copy of that map. So from there, we kind of stepped, depending on what courses they've already taken, step them through. Some of them will actually finish off in the traditional style. So for next year, we'll still offer a section or two. It's my belief, I think we're still working through this, so I don't want to say this is 100% set in stone. So they'll still work through the program that they've already started. Some students will get a little bit of our current program and a little bit of the new program. And then some students will just start out in the new program offering and go from there. So we really tried to look at all the students, and we didn't want to have redundancy in things that they've already taken. We wanted to make sure that they experienced as much of the new experience as possible. So we kind of mapped that out to figure out where they would fall and what would make the most sense. And as far as the critique is concerned, college critiques are brutal. They are brutal.
Because it's so personal.
Yes, it is.
Somebody just
Our critiques are not that brutal. We do not send our children home in tears, but they do learn how to speak about their art and their classmates' art and what they've learned and how they can improve and those types of things. So, yes.
So you'll have to forgive me, I didn't take any art.
That's okay. You're welcome to come and sit in on
class. Bonds, that's all I did. But what I'm hearing is phenomenal, and it sounds like you're really creating a curriculum to help those students that want to take art, that want to get involved with art, that want to maybe move on with art in college. You did mention in the beginning, and I was listening very intently, you mentioned in the beginning of your talk that currently there are students that will dabble in different classes.
Yes.
Is this new way of doing things, is this new curriculum still going to allow kids to dabble, and is it not shutting that door on those kids? And that's obviously incredibly important.
We welcome any student who wants to take any of the art classes. We're very good at differentiation. We do it our entire educational career with students in the arts, because we have students with all different capabilities and skill sets. And so even if they're not going to pursue the arts, we still welcome them in, make them feel part of the process. Our one teacher, Mr. Williams, who will most likely teach most of the introduction to our classes, is amazing at teaching these kids to understand that it's okay to be out of their comfort zone and to not always be excellent at what it is they're doing, that it's still a learning process. And we foster that from the beginning classes, well, from elementary up through high school, but at the high school level, you don't have to be a master. You don't have to go on to major in the arts. We still want you there. We still want you to gain an appreciation for the arts and understand what a valuable tool it is as a means of communication. And we have used art since the beginning of time as a means of communication. And so it won't be exclusive to just our art majors. It's just as important for students who aren't going to major in the arts in our art classes as it is to have all of our students who are going to major in the arts in the art classes. And they get along so wonderfully too. It's a great experience.
Just to add to that, Lynette, I've heard you speak about how there's also some students kind of on the other end of that spectrum that have a great deal of interest in art, but in the previous sequence of courses, they decided not to take an Art 2 or Art 3 because they really liked a particular medium and didn't want a survey style course. They didn't want to work in clay or in sculpture. They just wanted to draw and paint. So this will be able to give those students that are a little bit more advanced the opportunity to say, nope, this is the medium I really want to learn.
And we're really excited about that. So we have the intro to art. We have the drawing and painting 1, drawing and painting 2, sculpture 1, sculpture 2. Andy, I hope I'm okay to talk about this. Not on this agenda, but our ideal progression would be after these classes, so they all would take intro to art, and then they could veer to drawing and painting, or they could veer to sculpture, or they could do both. So if they take intro to art and then they take drawing and painting 1 and 2, we're looking at an advanced studio class. Now that advanced studio class would allow any of the drawing and painting students to continue their concentration in drawing and painting, or it would allow any of the sculpture 1 and 2 students to continue their concentration in sculpture, or if it's a student who have had all of those classes, they can pull all of those mediums together. And it really is designed to, we give the students a problem, something to solve visually, and how they go about solving it is entirely based on the tools in their toolbox and the mediums that they really feel comfortable in, or if they want to push themselves, mediums that they want to explore more. We have students coming to us multiple times throughout the year, hey, I really want to work in fiber arts. Okay, let's figure out what we can do. Hey, I really want to make paper. I want to learn how to make books. So we are not shutting these kids down. We're saying, yes, we may not be the experts in it, but we'll help you find information. And a lot of it too is having them research other artists, research other art forms, and how they can pull that knowledge into what it is they want to learn and build on that. So we're a facilitator there of creativity and allowing them to expand what they want to learn.
And it seems to be able to streamline resources as well this way by having discrete classes.
Yes.
Is there any thought, and I know the curriculum is still being developed, will there be any thought into partnerships with local institutions like the tech school, Messiah University, and is there in the curriculum any ability to go visit galleries in the area, things like
We, I think we did at one point before COVID and block scheduling, we did have a field trip kind of regimen where we were able to expose students to the National Gallery, and we went out to see Falling Water and Kentucky Knob. And so I'm hoping that we can get back into, once we get a feel for these courses and when they're going to be offered and how they're going to be offered, looking at adding field trips into the experience. We do have now, for members who are new to the board, in the spring, we do a district-wide art show, and we do a senior recognition art show, and those are both in conjunction with the Art Center School and Galleries. And so the students get to experience a real gallery setting with an opening reception and hanging the show and things like that. In our upper level classes, we are really wanting to, especially in the advanced studio class, we want to develop it so that the students actually have to go out and find a gallery space to showcase their work. And we've talked with Mr. Reedy about installation pieces within the high school, not permanent installations. We have so many beautiful spaces now. So we have so many, I'm so excited about it. Just wonderful opportunities. And Mr. Williams and Miss Close, the other two art teachers that I work with at the high school, are just overwhelmed, they just bring these ideas forth and we talk about them and we really talk about what will give our students the best experience. We've talked about collaborative shows, and so so we are looking, hopefully, some visiting artists. I don't know if anybody remembers Jonathan Bartlett. You may, okay. So Jonathan Bartlett is an amazing illustrator who came through our program, and he keeps contacting Mrs. Giblin, can I please come back and talk to your art classes? I really just want to talk to high school students. So we have so many former students who have pursued areas in the arts, who are making a wonderful living in the arts, and they all the time like, please let us come back and talk with you. I have a former photographer who is now a professional photographer who's going to come back and photograph the legacy murals so that we can reprint those so we don't lose those in the construction phase. So we've got a ton of contacts, and just that ability to perhaps reach out to universities and colleges in the area as well for experiences. So, yeah.
You can tell Mrs. Goodland has a little passion about what she does around here, and that's why she's done it for over 2 decades. So I thank you for coming forward tonight, Mrs. Goodland, to present, and really thank the board for your flexibility. Again, this is not our typical sequence, nor would we typically do this under a superintendent's report, but you can see our reason for wanting to get this in front of kids and not wait another 18 months to do so. And I also just real quickly will point out, because I know we're going a little while here, but it's important for the board to understand this. The STEM area at our high school is truly based on our vision, right? A learning community inspired to explore, empowered to innovate. You can just say those words and everybody goes, oh, that feels nice, that feels great. Inspired to explore, empowered to innovate. We're going to have our students who, when you think about it traditionally, would be in our metal shop or in a wood shop, interacting with our art students, and think about the incubation that can happen in an environment like that. I cannot wait to take you over to the high school and show you what that space looks like for these kids. And I want to thank Mrs. Giblin and the other department coordinators who push themselves and push their own thinking from the way we've done it for years to now what's going to benefit kids moving for years forward. So it's an exciting time for us.
About the window spaces, they can see from one area to the next. We're not sure if that's going to be a hindrance, a distraction, or if it's going to be, I think it's maybe a little bit of both, but for them to see what tech ed is doing and what the art students are doing, and hopefully generate some interest definitely between the two areas.
There's such a crossover there between the two.
Yep. All right.
Thank you, Mrs. Giblin.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Please come visit us at any time. We welcome you. You can come take an art class. Thank you.
Stick figures are right on. I just have to
Start somewhere. Be careful floating home tonight. Thank you.
One more item under my report. Thank you for your patience. We want to update the board on the Elmwood HVAC project. We talked to the board obviously about this in the fall, and Mr. Longwell is going to give a brief update on where things stand with that, because there will be additional information coming forward within the next several weeks.
Thank you, Dr. Leddy. I guess just by way of a reminder, we've been on a little bit of a journey here with our construction projects, and really some of the underpinning, the guiding principles around those construction projects were, what are the needs of our academic program and equity of facilities, our growing enrollment, where we're seeing a rapid growth over a number of years, one of the fastest growing schools in the state in that regard, and then mechanical and infrastructure. And so with respect to our individual projects, when we looked at the project scope and said, to what degree do we need to renovate the buildings, some of the considerations around mechanical and infrastructure were, how much remaining useful life do we have for things like our roofs or our HVAC systems? Because if there was 5 or 10 years left, we didn't want to necessarily replace it too soon, because they are so expensive and there's still life left. So I think then when you think about Elmwood Academy in general, that was one of our first buildings to enter the construction process, because enrollment was growing so quickly. We wanted to move the administration out of the second floor. So walk down memory lane. That was probably around 2017, 2016 that we were talking about that and kind of speccing out what does that look like. We did move the administration out, converted that to classrooms, immediately gained a whole number of classrooms that actually proved critical because of that enrollment growth, and that was part of our reconfiguration of our buildings. Then in 2019, we did some additional work at Elmwood, again, because of enrollment, to add classroom space, address the core areas of the building like the media center and library. I share that context just to remind the board and share with the public that Elmwood wasn't necessarily the comprehensive project that some of the other elementary schools were, and we knew that we'd have to come back to some mechanical and infrastructure things in particular, like the HVAC system, and that led us to this past year, 2023, where we did kind of a needs assessment on our rooftop HVAC units. We knew that they all frankly needed to replace beyond the two that we had already replaced there over the gymnasium. In terms of the scope of the project, the estimate is at $4.5 million. We had this fall worked with our engineer and some other professionals to kind of map out what that looks like exactly, because we want it to be a summer project. So the timeline on bidding is kind of important to get everything so that we can do the project here this summer. And as Dr. Leddy alluded to, we are on a trajectory to come back to the Finance and Facilities Committee here in a few weeks with bids. I'm pleased to report, in talking with Mr. Hoffman, our facilities director, that at least two of our prior HVAC contractors on our construction projects have inquired and appear to be preparing bids. Also, two other big HVAC contractors that we've worked with in the past in various capacities also have inquired and seem to be preparing bids. And so we feel confident that we'll get some bids, and hopefully good bids, when we open those here in the next week and a half, 2 weeks. So, that was just by way of quick update, a reminder about construction and next steps at Elmwood and the HVAC project that we're working through. So,
Questions for Mr. Longwell or myself on that? To our new board members, I promise you that the superintendent's report does not usually take an hour, but tonight it did, so thanks for your patience with that.
Do we think, and this is a little sarcastic, it seems like every year or 2 years we've been doing something at Elmwood, and I know Tracy and I had talked about it, we joked about it, that you could call this project number 5 in Elmwood, and it seems like there's always something. Is this kind of, we hope to be that last piece that we have to look at for a little bit of time at Elmwood?
So I think maybe if we go back to those three main areas that help guide our construction projects around things like academic program, enrollment, and mechanical infrastructure, I think it'd probably be premature. As much as I'd love to say yes to that, I think realistically there are going to be some additional things. And that probably connects a little bit to the Facilities Planning Committee, where we've been working with the board. And so especially for our new directors, facilities planning really is one of those things where you don't touch a building once and then forget about it, because there's all these different life cycles, right? And so your HVAC systems might last 15 or 20 years, your roof systems might last 20 or 25 years. And so you're kind of on this continual cycle of review. We knew that as we went through construction, we got a great start to address things around academic program, enrollment, mechanical infrastructure. But now that we're getting closer to the end of the high school project, we know that if we look ahead 7 more years, there's probably some needs that are out there too that we need to think about what our priorities are, how do we finance those priorities. And I think just for the board's sake, not to preview that other conversation with facilities planning, but I think the middle school is an example where that was our newest building when we began all of this. Now it's our oldest building in terms of its last renovation, having been done in the early 2000s. And so back to those life cycles, 15, 20, 25 years, it probably brings the middle school into view of, hey, over the next 7 years, there's probably things at the middle school. We know Elmwood, because of the nature of the project, might need some additional help or things addressed. And so that Facilities Planning Committee, we would bring back through Dr. Lady with recommendations about the next 7 years.
And it's a great trip down memory lane, because I think if you compare Elmwood to, say, the Kindergarten Academy, right? How many times have you heard us come back to talk about the Kindergarten Academy? Because that was a comprehensive renovation project that we had time to do. Elmwood, we didn't have time.
Right.
We were either gonna bring in about 10 modulars, or we were gonna move into Elmwood. And we knew that if we weren't gonna bring in 10 modulars and move into Elmwood, it was going to have to occur over phases, and that's just the reality of it. In the meantime, we also had an enrollment spike that we didn't even realize initially, right, that was added to that. So there is a long history with that amazing building where all of our 4th and 5th graders are, and that's the essence of what that building is about, not the building itself, but the education happening in there is just tremendous on a daily basis for those kids.
And on that, I mean, on that token, I agree. We've done a great job of tackling a building, then moving to the next building, to moving to the next building. Except for, it just seems like Elmwood always comes back again and always comes back again. And I don't disagree. The having someone that's in that building, the knowing the work and knowing everything that's going on, it is a phenomenal building. It just seems like every time we get to a point where we think we're moving away from construction, Elmwood comes back in, and then we're moving away from construction, Elmwood comes back in again. So I'm kind of channeling Tracy right now, but that's the conversation Tracy and I have always had. It just keeps seeming like there's another phase to Elmwood and another phase to Elmwood and another phase.
New to this, I mean, it sounds like there is a plan. There are things that are aging out over time.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley, for speaking for me.
So, I mean, as long, I don't think these are things that are just coming up.
Right.
So, continue to plan for it. And hopefully at the state level, we start to resolve some funding issues.
And I think to Mr. Kickline's point, it's interesting. I like to go back and look at the history of the construction projects. And so one thing that I kind of even reflected on is, if you think about the facilities planning committee, where we're looking at 2030 as a milepost out there in the future, 7 years from now. And then even as I was going back and looking at some of my notes in preparation for tonight, those conversations started all the way back in like 2015 with the feasibility study. And so you think about that 15-year period and back to those life cycles we talked about, that immediately kicks into play multiple different conversations. And so that's one thing I've been reflective about. I think you make good points, Mr. Bradley, and I think as I reconcile it in my own mind, think about the number of years that this all will encompass, and it's kind of like a continual process.
He's very nice to say, Mr. Bradley, we've been around for a while, I think.
Yeah. Very good.
That concludes my, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Further questions for Dr. Leidy? Move on to item 3.02, Capital Area Intermediate Unit, Mr. Bradley.
The intermediate unit met on December 14th. It was a little bit of an unusual meeting. They go around and they talk to the different departments, the different special areas, the coordinators for those special areas. And as I had indicated in November, we saw a significant turnover of the number of people that were on the board. More than a third, a little less than a half the board changed over. So a lot of what we spent time on during that meeting was the area coordinators explaining what their areas of responsibility were to bring these board members up to speed, to get them an understanding of what was going on. Did talk about a lot of different programs that they had. The holiday time frames were around, so there were different things that were going on. They continue to focus from a consortium type area on cybersecurity and all the issues for the different school districts as far as cybersecurity is concerned. They, like all the other school districts, we're going through that same process of transportation continues to be a little bit of a challenge. Drivers, I have yet to attend a meeting where we're not asked if we have any free time and we want to drive, whether it's drive a van or drive a bus, they'd be willing to sign us up. They've talked about working again, continuing to look at Keola and how Keola is set up. Keola is about 15 years old, and it has grown significantly, and it has gone through, like everything else over the last 3 years, the different changes. So they continue to adjust on Keola and working through how to fine-tune Keola. Working through the next round of contracts with the healthcare and everything, and how the healthcare is set up for them, and providing that for the teachers and the support staff. So, yeah. And then just talking about continuing to work through advisory panels. They get together in all the different groups, and they try to get together with different school districts, whether it be business managers, whether it be superintendents, whether it be special education, and just continue to provide whatever needs there are out there from the intermediate unit. And our next meeting is the 26th of June.
Any questions for Mr. Bradley? Thank you for the report, Mr. Bradley. Move on to item 3.03, Cumberland Perry Area Career and Technical Center report. Mr. Sanker, would you have anything additional you would like to report out?
No, I can't beat Maria. That's great report tonight. Thank you, Mr. Brent, for bringing them in.
I have a question. It came up when we were talking with some of this, our enrollment versus our quota. Can you touch upon that? Because we're under our quota for the enrollment. Is that because we don't have students signing up for that quota?
So quota is based on your relative size to the other districts that feed into the CTC.
Okay.
And so we have, if you look back to the first indication there, 16, 17, we were significantly under. The quota has continued to increase because our enrollment has continued to increase, and the percentage that we are of the CTC region is. We're actually not where our quota is, but we are definitely sending more students. And I think, to answer your question specifically, there is a gap. The gap is not what it used to be, but I also believe that we can continue to encourage our students to get out there. And really, let's face it, build it and they will come, right? Just like I was talking about the new STEM area at the high school, when kids start seeing that, they're going to want to be in that area. And the same thing I think can be said about a 1950s, 60s building that gets updated and it gets a little juice. Kids are going to want to go there.
On that note, Dr. Leidy, the difference between the students and the quota, does it, year after year, does it appear like there's one or two courses that we're not filling, or is it, because I mean, each class is also limited, correct, on how many students we can send there?
Yeah, you can't send 100 culinary students.
Right, so are we seeing a pattern of, like, can we reach out to a certain group and say, why aren't our students going to this particular thing?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could do that kind of an analysis. I think there's a lot of moving pieces to this, and if you want to jump in, feel free to jump in. But one of the challenges that the CTC has is that even though you have 117 students as a quota, there has to be a match between the available spots and what the students want. Right? And so that is a challenge, and I bless that guy because I would not want to have to deal with that. The good news is that we actually have more students who want to go to CTC but aren't getting their selected area per se, and so then choose, because they didn't get their selected area, to not go to CTC.
Yeah, which makes sense. I mean, so when you put it in that context, that's actually.
That's why I wanted to point that out, that it was still being done that way.
Because I'm like, my initial thought, I mean, it's an amazing program and these students are incredible. There's got to be more than 117 kids that want to go there.
Correct.
I mean, like, there's just no way.
And that's really what it comes down to is they pick our top three, just right. Yeah. And it's part of the application process, and then they have to distribute that across all the school districts and the spots that they have available at the time. So the increase, the investment that this board, along with every other regional board, has made into that building will help get more students there.
The wait list will still be bigger than that.
Still probably, and there'll still also be an imbalance between the amount of students and quota because of people not getting in what they want. That's not going to go away. We can try to close it, but it's always going to.
And again, to Mr. Brune's credit, we've been having, as a superintendent's group, we've been having many conversations around how do we address this wait list, not just through that building, but what other programs and opportunities exist out there to meet the needs of the students.
Great question. Any further questions on the Cumberland Perry Area Career and Technical Center? Move on to item 3.04, PSBA legislative report. So formal report this month. I would like to say, though, that as we all saw, the state budget did finally pass last month. I don't know, Mr. Longwell, if you've had time to plug that in yet, and I'm sure we'll see that in a future presentation on how that's going to affect our budget for next year. It looked like education did fairly well.
Yeah, and that's a good preview, Mr. Up. As the board knows, we do a two-part budget presentation, and so later this month, we'll do part one of our budget trends, where we do talk about state funding, and then part two is in March, where we've gone through and had all of our budget conversations with our teacher leaders and administrators, and that's kind of the final view of the budget in March at that point. And I think maybe a second piece to your point, Mr. Up, is the budget does have, I don't want to call them discretionary grants, but there's some additional funds in there for different purposes, I'll say, and we are looking at that and studying it internally to say, are we eligible for some of these monies, or where would we kind of stack up, so.
Questions on the PSBA? Move on to item 3.05, Finance and Facilities Committee report. Mr. Sanger.
No report from the committee. We haven't met since last week.
3.06, Board President report. I'd like to announce that an executive session was held on January 9th, 2024 at 6:45 p.m. to discuss personnel and legal matters. And I would also like to go over our board contact persons and committee assignments for this coming year. Normally, I have it done for this meeting, but with us moving from a Class 3 to a Class 2 school district and legal changes we have to make, it kind of it delayed it. We got some interpretations. And one of those will be is we will have to go to a non-board member as our treasurer, and that will therefore put some additional responsibility on the budget and finance contact. So out of respect for our senior board member and our treasurer of 16 years, I did ask Tracy today if she wanted to go from being the personnel contact to that, and she did. So that will open up, because she will still have some treasurer duties as we build around how we're going to work this with the non-board member being the treasurer. So she'll still have a lot of treasurer things to do in that position. So that will open up the personnel contact. I'll kind of open it to some of the senior people, if somebody, Rick or Lane or somebody wants to make a change, that would be available. That does require sometimes occasionally going to an interview for a principal or above. Other than that, it's really just participating at the meeting. And then there's a couple weeks here, I'll talk to the new members and see where we can place them once we fill some of these with the senior members. That one in particular, the personnel. That would also, the policy's open and the curriculum is open, so, and the personnel, so. The Finance and Facilities Committee, we lost Dennis off of that. So again, we do try to rotate that around. That does meet at 6 o'clock on that's Brian's committee. But so we will need a new member to replace Dennis. We try to move that around anyways. And again, I'll open it up to if one of the 3 senior members want to go on that, just let me know. And we'll backfill as needed. Lane or Dennis wants to go on. Josh, I know you have a lot of times a work problem getting there early. So.
There's a problem.
Yeah, so I mean, you don't want to.
be honest.
So I'm just saying,
Well,
if Lane or Rick wants to fill in, they can. If not, I'll make an assignment to a newer member. So just let me know.
And with the Finance and Facilities Committee, these are just the voting members.
Correct.
Any
We all
one
participate.
of us can attend the Finance and Facilities meeting. It's just when it comes time to make a decision on whether to move something forward or not, where the people that are not listed are not considered like the voting members.
Well, they
where the
can be,
non-
or else we would have a quorum,
Right,
not
right.
making that decision.
Right, but it's a great opportunity, even if you're not on that committee, to still attend those meetings, to find out what's going on, find out what the finance and facilities are happening in it, even if you are not a voting member. So if it fits into your schedule, it's always a good meeting, just to find out how things are moving in financials.
I think in the past, we've all tried to make these.
Yeah, we do.
Because it's, I mean, facilities, it's been a small part of what we've done.
So I'm
Just a
encouraging our
small
new
part.
members,
Yeah.
even if you're not put onto the committee, then please, as Rick said, come at that time. And Brian allows you to participate, you just can't.
Sometimes.
Usually.
Quiet. You have it right.
And then for the representatives to other organizations, We will need an alternate for the capital area intermediate unit, a South Central Trust alternate, and also the Harrisburg Area Community College delegate, which, what do they meet, twice a year, Dr. Lang?
2 times a year.
And Tracy had indicated she would like to do that. She doesn't have one of those other responsibilities. That does fill that one, so I'll get a hold of people as the weeks go on here. This can be completed for February. And that concludes my report. And also, on that same note, I'm sorry, one other thing was, for tonight, because some of these aren't filled, I thought to give the new board members just a little taste of going into it. Peter, when it's time, I'll give you 7.01 to make the motion, and Jason 10.01, because there are 2 other vacant contacts right now. I know Julie knows how to do that. She's been around for a while here. So with that, we'll move on to, to item 6, new business, budget and finance, item 6.01. Ms. Morgan.
I'd like to, just a minute.
We got you.
I'd like to ask the board to approve the treasurer's report as per the attachments, which include the following. Number 1 is the treasurer's report for December 2023. Number 2 is the board budget report for December 2023. 3 is the general fund invoices paid check numbers 67478 through 67638 in the amount of $1,158,207.14. Number 4 is the electronic payments in the amount of $8,514,498.84. Number 5 is the general fund invoices payable check number 67639 through 67656 in the amount of $476,114.38. Number 6 is the capital reserve fund invoices paid check number 1884 through 1889 in the amount of $94,761.87. Number 7 is the series of 2023 construction fund invoices paid check number 147 through 153 in the amount of $304,191.88. And lastly is the investment portfolio.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. Mr. Longwell.
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
6.02, Mr. Bradley.
I'd ask the board to approve the tax policies report as per the attachments.
Do we have a second? Any further discussion? Mr. Longwell.
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
Item 7, new business curriculum. Item 7.01. Peter.
I'd ask the board to approve the 2024-2025 high school course registration booklet as per the attachment.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I have a question. The AP computer science course, I know in the past when we've tried to have classes like that, we had trouble getting a teacher. We have a teacher that is
We have a teacher.
certified.
On staff, yes, we do. We're very excited about that. You're right, that has been challenged. It's part of the reason why this course is coming back the way that it is. It's been in our booklet before, but because we didn't have a staff member who was able to present it, we actually took it out of the booklet as an option. I do anticipate that this will come back with some curriculum revisions once the new teachers had an opportunity to take the class. Yes, that is great news.
There's also, when you're reading it, it says AP Computer Science A. What is that the name of the course? Because at the top it's just computer science, AP Computer Science.
So the College Board used to have 2 different AP Computer Science classes. It was AP Computer Science A and AP Computer Science AB. And they eliminated the AP Computer Science AB, and now it's Computer Science A, and they have a Computer Science Principles course, but they maintained the A on AP Computer Science. So for our course selection purposes, it's AP Computer Science, but officially with the College Board, it's AP Computer Science.
Thank you.
Any questions? Any other questions or comments?
I'm happy that we're having a computer science course.
And I'm happy that we found a certified
That's
instructor
also
for
good.
it.
I have a question that's not about approving or not, but you mentioned the 18-month window for this, and this might be just me not understanding how the block works, but like the student's scheduled for the whole year, and is that the amount of other stuff we're doing with the scheduling, is that still like, do we want them to do that, or or is there a thought about trying to do it semester by semester, like, later? I don't know. It would be easier than having to like. I don't want to make it harder, but it seems.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've done a high school schedule, but I will tell you that work on the high school schedule will start when this book is approved, and it will go through June. And so that process of going through that is both from a staffing perspective, and the amount of time that it takes is extensive. And I don't see sitting here right now a way to, just because you're only scheduling half, you still have to go through all of the process again if you don't schedule them all at once. So the course registration, all of those pieces has to still be done again if you don't schedule for the entire year. Yeah. If you're a college or a university, you have an entire department that's working on that, right? And we have basically a high school principal and counselors also on the operation of the building.
I'll just add the number of connections that exist between a course that's offered in the fall and then the next course is offered in the spring to allow for students to potentially take two during the course of the year. There's just a lot of connections between what ends up being offered in the fall.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to think of it in a way that allows for more flexibility, and so you aren't trying to jam something in a different process, not trying to, whatever, make Mr. Reedy's life even worse. So.
And I never want to say never, because there's got to be an opportunity, but I will say that in order to do that, I cannot see us being able to pull that off without adding staff. I just don't know how you can do that.
It wasn't that painful then, I guess, in retrospect. Yeah. Thank you.
Any further discussion on item 7.01? Mr. Longwell.
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
8, new business facilities, 8.01, Mr. Sanger.
I make a motion to authorize the administration to bid and/or participate in joint purchasing programs for art, athletic, technology education, physical education, science, maintenance, custodial supplies, and equipment for the 2024-2025 school year.
Second.
Second.
Further discussion? Mr. Longwell.
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
Item 9, new business personnel, item 9.01, Ms. Morgan.
I'd like to ask the board to approve the personnel report as per the attachments.
Second.
Second.
Further discussion? Mr. Longwell.
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
Item 10, new business policy, item 10.01, Jason.
I make a motion for the approval of non-resident senior status, 2023 to 2024.
Second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Mr. Longwell.
Unless I hear a negative response, I'll record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
Item 11, hearing of visitors. We have reached the second opportunity for public comment. This opportunity is reserved for comments on issues not listed on the agenda and not being voted upon this evening. As a reminder, public comment is limited to residents of the school district. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes per individual and requires community members to observe a reasonable decorum. If you'd like to address the board, please share your name and district address. This is for items that were not on the agenda. Seeing none. Item 12, Ms. Morgan.
I'd like to ask the board to adjourn.
We have a second.
Second.
Meeting is adjourned.